This presentation is going to be perfect for those who are beginners, talking about the basics of plant-based eating. Although if you are farther along in your plant-based journey, that's okay too. May help spark some more motivation or inspiration for different ideas for foods to include. I do want to give a disclaimer that there's going to be a lot of pictures of food throughout the presentation, so it may make you a little hungry, but that's okay. And we'll be diving into specific foods and beverages to include, but most of the pictures are of what a meal or snack could look like. So I wanted to make it just a little bit more practical for you guys. So the pictures that we have here today, on the bottom left is a Chipotle cauliflower tacos, and the cashew sauce is on top there, Chipotle cashew sauce. The middle is some fresh green grapes, and then towards the right is a lentil vegetable soup. Okay, so today I want to share a little bit about myself to start, and then I'm going to define lifestyle medicine. Whole food plant-based eating is just one pillar of achieving overall health and longevity. So I want to make sure I touch on that really quick. And then we're going to explore blue zones. So blue zones are geographical areas of the world where people are statistically living longer, healthier, and happier lives. So of course, we want to check out what they're doing and what their habits are. And then I'm going to differentiate between different types of plant-based eating. There's a lot of buzzwords going around like vegan, whole food plant-based, plant-based. So we'll clear that up a little bit. And then I'll dive into specific foods, nutritious foods and beverages to include, and I'll sprinkle in some of the health benefits that we can get from eating some of these foods and beverages. And then I'll provide a sample one-day meal plan to see what one day could look like. And then I'll review some other plant-based alternative products, which are really good for transitioning to plant-based eating. So for all those who are beginners, it's really good to take a look at some of these products that can make it easier. And then I'll just give some bonus tips for transitioning to plant-based eating, and then share some other educational resources for you. Okay, so as I mentioned, I wanted to touch on lifestyle medicine. The American College of Lifestyle Medicine defines it as therapeutic lifestyle choices that can either prevent, reverse, or even treat chronic disease, all chronic disease. And like we're going to be talking more about today, whole food plant-based eating is one of those really important pillars, but also not to mention increasing physical activity, getting some sort of daily movement in, developing strategies to manage stress, which is really important right now with COVID especially. Forming and maintaining positive relationships is a big part of that. Improving sleep, getting good sleep every night, and then cessation of tobacco. So as I mentioned, blue zones are geographical areas of the world where people are living statistically longer, healthier, and happier lives. And some researchers went into these areas and studied what daily habits they had that contributed to their longer, healthier, happier lifespan. And they came up with these 9 daily habits that each of these areas have. And they're really similar to the pillars of lifestyle medicine, but they go a little bit more in depth. So the first one at the top is moving naturally. People in blue zones tend to walk over 10,000 steps a day, and walking is one of the best forms of exercise. So that's really great. And then right outlook is that second pillar, which includes purpose. So having some sort of purpose of why you're here. And then some sort of downshifting, whether that be, and that kind of goes along with stress management too. So whether that be a nap or meditation, prayer, yoga, any form of stress relief. And then eating wisely is that next pillar, which is what we're going to talk more about today. So the 80% rule has to deal with pushing away the plate when we're about 80% full, listening to our body's fullness and hunger cues. The plant slant, people in blue zones tend to eat about over 90 to 95% whole plant foods, which is really powerful. And then wine at 5, this one is more optional. I think it was just in one of the regions where they had this organic red wine that has antioxidants in it, and no more than 1 drink a day for women and 2 for men. And then the next pillar is connecting. So finding the right tribe, people that surround yourself with people that love you, support you, uplift you, putting loved ones first, having strong family or friend connections, and then having a sense of belonging to community is really important as well. So connecting with others. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit more about the different buzzwords that we might hear. So vegan, plant-based, whole food plant-based. a lot of these words, they can be interchangeable, but there's slight differences to each of them. So for whole food plant-based eating, which is what we're going to be talking mainly about today, it is a diet that consists of mainly minimally processed whole plant-based foods. So fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains, legumes, beans, lentils, peas. And then it minimizes or avoids highly processed foods, oils, and animal products. And then a plant-based diet is very similar, although it does include products that are more processed, might include some oils or sugars or more of those highly processed foods. And then a vegan diet is one that is similar to the plant-based diet, but it's very strict to not include any animal products. And vegans tend to extend love and compassion to animals through goods and services that they purchase as well. So that's a really noticeable difference. And like I mentioned, all of these terms can be interchangeable as well. Okay, so I wanted to share this vegan MyPlate. You may have seen the USDA's MyPlate, and this is the vegan version. And I love how simple it is. I think it just really makes it really easy to plan a meal or plan a snack with this kind of diagram. I typically recommend having 2 or 3 food groups for snack, or 3 to 5, 4 or 5 food groups in a meal, so that you're getting all the nutrients that you need and feeling satisfied and energized from these foods. So the plate is made up of 1/4 fruits, 1/4 vegetables, 1/4 plant-based protein, 1/4 of grains, particularly whole grains, and then not forgetting calcium-rich sources of food. And like I said, we'll be diving deeper into each one of these food groups. And this is another really helpful diagram that I like. Dr. Greger is one of the leaders of the plant-based movement. He's got a great website, nutritionfacts.org, with a lot of helpful videos that are easy to comprehend. And he also has this app called The Daily Dozen. It's a free downloadable app, and you can actually check off each one of these groups per day to see if you're getting the recommended servings of each group. So the food groups that he includes are beans, berries, fruits, cruciferous vegetables, other vegetables, greens, flaxseed, nuts, grains, spices, and he also includes beverages and exercise, as well as including the vitamin B12 and vitamin D to supplement with as well. And he says that these are everything we should ideally strive to fit into our daily routine for optimal health and longevity. And there's a lot of research behind all these wonderful foods, which we'll dive deeper into shortly. Okay, first starting out with fruits. Personally, this is my favorite food group, Nature's Candy. We want to eat the rainbow when we're eating fruits and vegetables as well, which I'll talk about, but getting a variety of colors in, and the focus is on whole fruits rather than fruit juice, because that whole fruit comes packaged with dietary fiber, which helps regulate the blood sugar. And some of these whole fruits, some examples, there's not limited to this list. I mean, bananas, berries, pears, oranges, grapes, you name it. And to the right, we have a little fruit salad with blackberries, raspberries, and blueberries. And like I mentioned, all fruits are awesome to include, a lot of great vitamins and minerals in there. But berries in particular have some of the highest amounts of antioxidants. So just a little fun fact. Okay, next we have vegetables. Again, we want to eat the rainbow. The CDC recommends trying to get at least 5 different colors in a day. And not always, but generally the deeper and darker the vegetables, the more nutrients might be in there. And so Dr. Greger divided up the vegetables into 3 different groups. So cruciferous vegetables are ones that are like broccoli, bok choy, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. And these cruciferous vegetables, cruciferous means like cross-bearing, and they're particularly helpful for fighting cancer. So these are powerful cancer fighters. Want to include at least a serving of these every day. Leafy greens like kale, arugula, spinach, collard greens, lettuce. These are really some of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet, and they offer a lot of health benefits, but particularly they're high in calcium as well, so it's good to include those every day. And then other vegetables, not limited to this list. There's thousands of different vegetables out there to choose from, like carrots, onion, cucumber, bell peppers, asparagus, zucchini, you name it. And off to the right here, we have a picture of a salad. So the vegetables in this salad are the Swiss chard is the base with greens, and then we've got some beets on there as well. And then there's also some hemp hearts and almonds on there as well. And not pictured was a balsamic glazed dressing. And then yeah, lots of other ways to eat vegetables. You can have them in salads and stir fries. You can make side dishes with different herbs and spices. And you can put them in smoothies even. Spinach and kale are great in smoothies. Personally, I don't think I can pick a favorite vegetable because there's just so many that I like. But if I really, really had to, I'd probably say spinach because I eat it the most. But I'd also love beets as well. Okay, so yeah, everyone always tells us eat your fruits and vegetables, and we know they're good for us, but why are they good for us? So fruits and vegetables come packed with a bunch of water, right? So they're really high in volume, really low in calories, and most vegetables are actually over like 90 to 95% water. And so that's really hydrating as well. They're really high in dietary fiber. Like I mentioned, that fiber is going to help regulate blood sugar. It's going to help keep us fuller longer, which is great for weight management. Fruits and vegetables are really high in vitamins and minerals, particularly vitamin A, C, and E, and then minerals, especially potassium, calcium, magnesium, and iron, and antioxidants and phytochemicals, which are going to be really great for the immune system, keeping us healthy, and reducing risk of disease as well. And the picture we see off to the right there is a green smoothie. That's one of my favorite green smoothies to make. It's super simple. You can use spinach or kale, banana and mango or pineapple and then water. And if you use frozen fruits for smoothies, that'll help make a cold texture. But if not, you can throw some ice in there as well. And yeah, just a really quick and easy way to get a lot of good nutrients in. Next food group we're going to talk about are whole grains. So whole grains are grains that go through little to no processing. The alternative, we have refined grains. So you might know these as like white bread, white rice, white pasta. Now these types of grains are stripped of certain nutrients like fiber and vitamins and minerals. So we really want to have the whole grains that have all those nutrients so we can get the best nutrients for health. And some examples of these whole grains are oats. You can do steel cut, roll are great options. Quinoa, brown rice, wild rice, barley, farro, whole grain pasta, whole grain bread, sprouted whole grain bread in particular. I really love the Ezekiel brand. Popcorn, corn, all great options. And the picture we see off to the right is oatmeal. That's one of the best ways to start the day. This is oatmeal with peanut butter, soy milk, ground flaxseed, and blueberries and bananas. So the whole grain in there is just the oatmeal, but it's great to add all those different food groups. Like I mentioned, having 2 or 3 food groups for snacks or breakfast, and then 4 or 5 for meal times. And it's really great to eat a lot like quinoa, brown rice. These are all good for, stir fries. Quinoa is good in salads. Whole grain pasta, you can make pasta dishes. Whole wheat bread with sandwiches and different types of toast. Popcorn is a great snack. Popcorn with nutritional yeast in particular is a really great snack. Whole grain couscous you make salads out of. Whole grain cereals, a really quick and easy breakfast option. The great thing about all these foods, right, is that they're so versatile. You can make tons of different types of combinations and recipes to see how you like it. So if you do happen to try a food and you don't particularly like it, I would encourage you not to give up on it and experiment around with different herbs and spices and combinations to see how you might like it. So whole grain benefits. Whole grains are a complex carbohydrate. So because they have dietary fiber, that's going to help us regulate our blood sugars, like I mentioned, so that we can digest the carbohydrates a little bit slower, and we can have that long lasting energy throughout the day. They're also really heart healthy. So dietary fiber also binds with cholesterol and helps us excrete it through the waste. So it's really great for lowering cholesterol levels. It's really great for heart health. Whole grains often have a lot of plant protein as well, particularly quinoa, farro, oats, all have really high amounts of protein. Whole wheat pasta has a lot of protein as well. And so that's really helpful for building muscles, of course. And then particular vitamins and minerals that whole grains are high in are the B vitamins, again, which are really good for energy. And then zinc, iron, and magnesium as well, which are really good for and carrying oxygen throughout the blood and getting good for our muscles and tissues as well. And the picture that we see here to the right, the whole grain on this picture is the whole grain corn tortilla. And then the topping is, this is a forks over knives recipe, one of my favorites. I definitely recommend going to check out their recipes, but it's a mango and black bean taco recipe, super delicious. Okay. One of the biggest myths about eating plant-based is that you can't get enough protein. And I love to debunk it because it's totally possible. And there's lots of different sources of protein that come from plants that adds up throughout the day. So particular sources that are really high in plant-based protein are beans. You can have any types of beans: kidney beans, black beans, chickpeas, white beans, tons of different kinds of beans. They're great in chili or in soup, great in salads even, bean salads, tacos, Mexican dishes, a lot of great ways to eat beans. Hummus for chickpeas, that's a good one too. Lentils, red, yellow, green, brown. Tip for cooking lentils is thinking red and the rest. So red are going to become a little bit mushier and the rest usually stay intact when you cook them. Lentils are great. You can make lentil sloppy joes, also great in pastas, salads, soups as well. Nuts are a really great source of protein as well. Tons of different awesome nuts: almonds, cashews, walnuts, pecans, hazelnuts. Walnuts are particularly one of the most heart healthy nuts because they have omega-3 fatty acids, which I'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation. But nuts are great on their own. You can eat them with fruit. You can eat them on salads. You can make cashew sauces. So actually, I'll start talking about the picture to the right. There is a vegan cashew mac and cheese. So the vegan cheese sauce is made from cashews, nutritional yeast, soy milk, and turmeric is making that yellow color with some other spices like garlic and onion and pepper. And then seeds, so pepitas, sunflower seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp hearts, you name it. These are really great in smoothies, really good in salads, really great. You can make a chia seed pudding, which is just chia seeds and nut milk. A lot of good options. Also with seeds, you can just make a little trail mix too with nuts and seeds and maybe some dried fruit. It's an awesome little snack. And also good in oatmeal. Nuts and seeds are great in oatmeal. And then we've got soy foods, so tofu, tempeh, edamame. These foods are also really heart healthy and have been shown to lower cholesterol levels. They're also helpful for reducing risk of cancer as well. So tofu is really great in stir fries. You can make a scramble with tofu as well. Tofu makes a really good substitute for scrambled eggs. Tempeh, edamame, really great in stir fries, really good with Asian dishes, or edamame is really good on salads as well, or just on its own. And then soy milk is also a really great option, high in protein. It's going to be one of the most equivalent to cow's milk in terms of protein and calcium as well. So it's a good alternative. And then whole grains, as I mentioned, are really high in plant-based protein. Quinoa, whole wheat pasta, whole wheat bread, oats, wild rice are really high in protein. And then nutritional yeast, which is an inactive yeast, which is really great on popcorn, on pizza, on soups as well. And you can think of it like a alternative to Parmesan cheese. And then vegetables, certain vegetables also have small amounts of protein as well. So green peas, broccoli, sweet potatoes, and a lot of other foods have a very small amount of protein, maybe just 1 or 2 grams per serving. So all of this added up throughout the day, no concerns about getting enough protein in. Okay, so plant-based protein benefits. We can get all the essential amino acids that our bodies need from plants. And the great thing about these plant-based proteins is that they have zero cholesterol, and they're also low in fat and high in dietary fiber, which is really good for our digestive system. You're going to hear me talk about fiber a lot, but that's a good thing. We want to get in enough fiber. Vitamins, minerals, particularly zinc, iron, calcium, magnesium, and again, really good for long-lasting energy, really good for building muscles and tissues. And then because of that fiber as well, the plant-based proteins are really filling and good for weight control as well. And the picture that we see up to the right is teriyaki tempeh. So tempeh is fermented soybeans, and there's sesame seeds on top of this as well. So some protein coming from there. There's brown rice. So there's going to be some protein coming from the brown rice as well. And then a side of steamed garlic broccoli. Next up, we've got calcium-rich plant foods and beverages. So this is where that almond milk is going to come in play. There's tons of different plant-based milks. It's awesome how much the plant-based movement is booming because of so many different products that are being made. And particularly oat milk is my favorite. I think it's the most creamy. But I also love soy milk just because of that extra protein. And a really great source of calcium. Beans and lentils are a great source of calcium. Almonds, and leafy greens, as I mentioned before, so kale, spinach, Swiss chard, arugula. Trying to include those every day is a good idea. Oranges, broccoli, soy foods, particularly calcium set tofu, and then edamame. And the picture that we see off to the right there is a Asian bowl with brown rice noodles. And the calcium is going to come from the calcium set tofu and broccoli. And then there's also some fresh herbs, basil, cilantro, and then green onions and a faux broth. So the body processes plant-based sources of calcium a little bit more efficiently. And this is going to help build healthy bones, muscles, tissues, and really great for heart health as well. So in the right here, I've got just a few different pictures, like the oat milk, soy milk, almond milk, and then also the dark chocolate almond milk, which is a really delicious treat. But that would go more so in the plant-based eating rather than whole food plant-based. Okay, next we have omega-3 fatty rich sources. So omega-3 fats are, well, I'll talk about the benefits actually in a minute, but Dr. Greger had flax seeds on his recommended list because they're one of the highest plant-based sources of omega-3 fats. Chia seeds, hemp hearts, and walnuts are also rich in omega-3s, and then algal oil could be a supplement as well. And the flaxseed is on this oatmeal picture. It's ground up. Generally, we want to get flaxseed ground because we can digest it best. And the benefits of omega-3 fatty acids is that they're really helpful for fighting inflammation. So they've been shown to be helpful for brain health, reducing depression and anxiety. And they've also been helpful for heart disease as well. So lowering cholesterol, lowering blood pressure, and like I said, inflammation as well. And here's a picture of the chia seed pudding I mentioned. This is just chia seeds, nut milk, and then extract, either a vanilla or almond extract, maybe a touch of maple syrup sweetener, and then some raspberries on top. So chia seeds, if you're not familiar with them, when you put them in liquid, they'll gellify. Typically it'll take 10 20 minutes, but if you let them soak for over an hour, you can get a really good pudding texture, and it's a really delicious snack or dessert. Next, we're talking about herbs and spices. So herbs and spices, there's tons of different herbs and spices, not limited to this list, but basil, parsley, oregano, those make great for Italian dishes. Cinnamon, nutmeg, really great in oatmeal or smoothies. Turmeric is really great. It's got that bright yellow color. Ginger and other Mexican spices like cumin or cayenne pepper, chili powder, tons of different awesome herbs and spices. All fresh herbs, dried herbs are awesome options. And when cooking, typically about 1 tablespoon fresh is equivalent to about half tablespoon dried. So you just want to use like half the amount when you're using dried. So herbs and spices are going to give us really great aroma, flavor, taste. They're also really aesthetically pleasing to put on foods, adding more color, bright colors. And there's also been shown to be really anti-inflammatory because they're really high in antioxidants. A lot of them have been researched for different things, but among those being anti-carcinogenic, so helping fight cancer. Some of them, like cinnamon in particular, have been shown to help with blood sugar control. And some have been shown to help lower cholesterol as well. I think basil is one of those. Ooh, and one tip I wanted to talk about, I don't know if anybody already does this, but if you ever have fresh herbs that you're not going to use, you can chop them up and put them in ice cube trays with water and then freeze them. And then you can, they can last for a lot longer, and you can just pull them out and melt the ice cube and you have those fresh herbs again. So one tip. Probiotic foods and beverages are good to include. So these are fermented foods or beverages that contain live active cultures, and some may Examples are any pickled vegetables or pickled foods. And to the right there, we see pickled beets, which are personally some of my favorite. Tempeh, as I mentioned, is a fermented soybean. Kimchi, raw sauerkraut, sourdough bread. One note about sourdough bread, though, is that you want to make sure it's fresh baked, because some of the more processed versions might not have as many of the benefits, and kombucha as well. So probiotic foods and beverages are really great for our digestive health. They'll help create more of that good bacteria in our gut, which is helpful for metabolism. It can help boost the immune system, and they're also linked to good mental health as well. And that picture off to the right is raw sauerkraut, which is super delicious on its own. Okay, next I want to talk about condiments. So these are just different ways to flavor food and get really good taste with still getting the good health benefits of all the foods. So mustards are really great. You can get no salt added or lower sodium mustards. Vinegars, balsamic vinegar, white wine vinegar, red wine vinegar, apple cider vinegar. I've seen some of the red wine vinegars infused with different things like garlic, so that's super tasty. And salsa, hot sauce, soy sauce, coconut aminos, tamari, going for a low sodium version would be great for that. Nutritional yeast, as I mentioned, is an inactive yeast that can kind of mimic Parmesan cheese. And then cashew-based dressings, which is what you see off to the right. That's a 100% vegan Caesar salad. And the dressing is made of cashews, lemon juice, nutritional yeast, a little bit of soy sauce, and some other spices like garlic, onion powder, and it's really tasty. And you just blend that up in a blender. I think I use some water too. And I also put on there added sweeteners like maple syrup, molasses, date syrup, and then oils like olive oil, flaxseed oil, or avocado oil. Now I put in a little asterisk next to these because by including more of these, that's going to gear more towards just regular plant-based eating, but whole food plant-based eating would keep the sugar, salt, and fat to a minimum or none at all. All right, healthy beverages to include. Water is body's best friend. We want to definitely stay hydrated throughout the day. Infused water is a great way to switch it up. You can put lemon in your water. I think someone mentioned like a mint lemon. And yeah, mint is really good. Mint cucumber, or putting berries in water is really fun. Frozen berries in particular are going to make water turn like pinkish purple if you do it with blueberries or blackberries, raspberries. And that's really fun because it can kind of trick your brain and make you think like you're drinking juice. And then you get to eat the fruit as well. So it's win-win. Green teas, herbal teas are awesome healthy beverage options. Personally, I love chai rooibos tea. It's caffeine free and super delicious. Decaf coffee is a great option. Fresh and cold pressed vegetable juices. Smoothies would be more of a full liquid, but then those unsweetened plant-based milks that I talked about as well. Okay, so water, like I said, is the body's best friend. A lot of functions that it has in the body. It's going to help moisten our tissues. It's going to help prevent constipation. It's going to help us absorb different vitamins and minerals, lubricate the joints. It regulates body temperature, a number of things that water is. Obviously oxygen, right? Being hydrated gives us a lot of energy. And the left here is Harvard's daily recommendations for water based on age and gender. So that's a good thing to note depending on where you're at, and you can kind of compare, think about how much water or fluids, right? So tea would count as a fluid in that, but kind of see where you're at and where the recommendation is, and see if maybe you could use a little bit more water or fluids in your day. So as I mentioned throughout the presentation, a lot of these foods have so many health benefits. And when we do it all together, when we go all in whole food, plant-based eating and keeping the sugars, fats, and salt to a minimum, we can get tremendous health benefits. So these are lowering cholesterol, blood pressure, and blood sugar. Research has shown that whole food, plant-based eating can not only prevent and treat diabetes and heart disease, but it can actually reverse it as well. So very powerful stuff. It can lower risk of cancer and slow the progression of certain types of cancer. Like I said, a lot of these foods are really high in antioxidants. They're really helpful for inflammation and fighting arthritis in particular. And then just in general, it can help improve mood and energy levels and increase the quality of life and longevity as well. Like tying it back to the blue zones that I mentioned, this whole food plant-based eating can help us live longer, healthier, and happier lives. And this picture that you see off to the right is avocado chocolate pudding. Great snack, great dessert, really quick and easy to make. It's banana, avocado, cocoa powder, and a tiny bit of sweetener, which is optional, and then vanilla extract, I believe I used, but you can use almond extract or maple extract, whatever you want, and topped with a little bit of raspberries. So this is what one meal plan, one day could look like. Generally, it's good to eat more frequently, have 3 meals, 2 snacks throughout the day, but every day is going to be different depending on what we're doing and where we're going. So like I said, this is just one example. But breakfast could be oatmeal with flax seeds, blueberries, bananas, and soy milk, like we saw earlier in the presentation. A snack could be a handful of walnuts with some apple slices. Lunch could be a chickpea salad sandwich with veggies on whole grain bread and a side of a pickle and sweet potato fries, which is actually the picture you see off to the right. Delicious sandwich. That's another forks over knives recipe I highly recommend. It's got chickpeas, tahini, garlic powder, onion powder, and then some celery, onion, and I think a few other things, but super delicious. And it really takes, I think it has dill, lemon juice in it too. And if you like tuna salad and you're trying to transition to plant-based eating, that would be an awesome recipe for you to try. A PM snack could be a super green smoothie like the one we saw before with some greens, fruit, and water. And then air pop popcorn with nutritional yeast. And then dinner option could be teriyaki tempeh with brown rice and steamed garlic broccoli, which we saw a picture of as well. And another thing to mention is that whole food plant-based eating is not really about measuring foods or portioning out foods, but rather listening to our body's fullness and hunger cues. And I didn't put any measurements on any of these examples because everybody's different, and depending on how much you exercise, etc., everybody's caloric needs are going to be differently. So the best recommendation is just to listen to your body's fullness and hunger cues. So now we're going to get into the plant-based alternative options. Now, this is more, like I said, plant-based eating. So these options that I'm going to be talking about aren't going to have as many of the health benefits, although they will have some in a sense that these alternative meat products, for example, have 0 cholesterol and they're made out of plant protein, right? So some examples for meat alternatives are beef. If anybody's heard of the Impossible meat, Beyond Meat is really popular. We can see the burger over here. It really mimics a beef burger. One thing I forgot to mention as well, these plant-based alternative products, while they might not have as many health benefits as the whole plant-based foods, they're still going to have a lot of great benefits for the environment and for animal welfare as well. So good to keep that in mind. And they're, like I said, they're really great for transitioning. So for those who, eat a lot of meat and a lot of dairy and a lot of animal products right now, these foods can make it a lot easier to transition to plant-based eating. Other options for meat alternatives, chicken. So Gardein makes plant-based chicken nuggets, a lot of different brands. So some of the brands that you see here are just a few of them, right? There's a lot of different companies making plant-based products, which is awesome because the plant-based movement is just growing and growing. Pork alternatives could be barbecue jackfruit or Beyond brats or sausages. I think Fieldhouse makes sausages as well. And then deli, so we see those turkey slices. There's, they make turkey, ham, chicken. A lot of different brands are making some too. Field roasts. Good for Thanksgiving coming up. So Field Roast makes a good, turkey alternative. Tofurkey is another brand too that makes some of those plant-based turkey options. And then Light Life is a brand that makes what they call smart dogs, which are alternatives to hot dogs. So really, these days, it's a great time to be a vegan. It's a great time to be plant-based because there's so many products that make it really easy to be. Okay, so dairy alternatives, tons of different dairy alternatives. We've got yogurt, milk, ice cream, butter, cheese, lots of different brands that are making these products. Personally, I love the vegan yogurts. I have oat milk yogurt on there, which is really delicious, but I've been really enjoying just a plain soy yogurt by Silk, which is really delicious. And then one thing to note about something like Earth Balance or some of those vegan butters is that we want to avoid palm oil. So palm oil and coconut oil are particularly high in saturated fats, which are really not healthy for our hearts. But particularly palm oil is really harmful for the environment. So something to make a note of. And then we've got seafood alternatives. So I personally actually have not tried any of these ones. I need to get trying some of them. I know Olivia said some of them are pretty good. But tuna and Sophie's vegan tuna is an option you can get online. And then fried fish sticks. Gardein makes a type of fishless fillets. And then a way to mimic crab is by making crabless cakes, is what you call them, and from hearts of palm. So that's another good idea. And then egg alternatives. So some of you might have heard of Just Egg. It's on the right there. It really mimics egg a lot. It really looks really similar. It tastes pretty similar to. Or you can do a tofu scramble, like I mentioned, with crumbled tofu and some turmeric, garlic, onion powder. Make that with some veggies, got some whole grain toast. That's a great egg alternative, good healthy breakfast. And then you can also make a flax or a chia egg. And so that's really helpful for baking or for pancakes or something like that. And then we've got plant-based, like pre-made frozen meals. A lot of companies are making these burritos or pastas that are frozen. You can just put them in the microwave, really quick and easy. These are, a lot of them are found at Trader Joe's, Kroger, Meijer, Whole Foods, less at Aldi's, but if you can't find any products nearby, if your stores are limited, then you can always check online for products as well. And I put on this vegan certification as well. So that's just a sure way of telling that a product has no animal products in it. Some other tips for going plant-based, my number one recommendation is finding your why. So figure out why you want to go plant-based and kind of keep that in the forefront of your mind when you're making tough decisions. It can be really helpful for motivation and really helpful in those tough situations. And there's a lot of different reasons. So today we've talked about a lot of mainly health benefits, but there's a lot of benefits for the environment and animal welfare as well. So for whatever speaks to you the most, learn more about it, stay educated on it, learn more about the research behind what's going on, and that can help with transitioning to plant-based eating. And then get support. So behavioral change is a lot easier when we do it with somebody or we have someone holding us accountable. So work with a healthcare provider that's familiar with plant-based or vegan nutrition, or do it with a friend, do it with a family member. It's going to definitely be easiest by doing it with someone you live with or someone you eat with frequently. And then experiment. So everybody's got something different that works for them. There's tons of different combinations of foods. So write down what works and write down what doesn't. And experiment around, find what you like. And then staying positive is really important. So stress manifests physically and mentally. So it's going to be only harder to achieve overall health if you're getting down on yourself or having any negative self-talk. So focus on that positive self-talk and don't get down if you happen to slip up. You know, sometimes it takes a long time to make these changes, and baby steps over time can lead to really big changes in the end. So just keep that in mind. And supplement as well. So supplementing is really important if you're going all in vegan or plant-based. The most important nutrients are going to be vitamin B12, vitamin D, and iodine. And those you can just get at any typical pharmacy or store. And here are some of the resources. There's tons of different resources out there, but not limited to this list. I would recommend, though, if you have a chronic disease or if you have risk factors for chronic disease or if you have a family history of chronic disease, definitely check out some of the resources related to whatever that chronic disease is. And a lot of great books out there by these leaders of the plant-based movement, like I mentioned, Dr. Campbell, Dr. Greger, Juliana Hever, Dr. Barnard, and Dr. Khan, and then tons of great websites, documentaries, podcasts. Like I said, the documentaries particularly, I think, are really motivating and inspiring and really eye-opening and just fun to watch. So definitely check some of those out.